r/ask Reddit. What's the worst thing you've come home to? 8 billion baby praying mantis in my house. Over the fall, my daughter went out into the woods and collected every praying mantis cocoon she could find and put them in a shoebox in her bedroom. They all hatched in the early spring while we were visiting my parents for the day. Oh my god. My house has been broken into. I got home, and there were 2 police cars in the driveway. A neighbor reported it. The house was trashed. I have no idea why. I'm not material and don't keep much on hand. The guy got away, and I cleaned up. Not a good day. This is such a terrible feeling, and you feel so violated beyond the stuff that was taken. Knowing a stranger was in your home, going through your stuff, the worst. Significant other and some other guy on my birthday. Took me years to get over that. On your birthday. Okay, Scotty doesn't know joke is covered. Friends. I was 13 and came home from school. My mother was walking around the house naked and delirious, randomly picking objects up and dropping them, calling me by a name that wasn't mine. I called 911 and a neighbor. She had a fever of 104. It was bacterial meningitis. She was in a medically induced coma after that, required brain surgery and then months of antibiotics. She had amnesia after that and was never really the same. Trying to undox myself. Deleted comment. Came home to blood trails all over the house. My cat got hurt for some reason I still don't know till today. It was a long cut on one of her hind legs. Brought her to the vet, stitched her up and she's good now. But I've made sure to check for any and all sharp objects around the house. Similar happened to mine, though it wasn't as severe and she didn't need stitches. But one of my cats wandered into the bathroom while I was at work and decided my new razor was a toy. Cue coming home to bloody paw prints and me frantically confirming that the offending cat wasn't going to die before cleaning it up. Thankfully she learned never to do that again. Thousands of ladybugs that hatched were swarming around and on the white siding of the house. And then I went inside and a couple hundred were hanging out in my living room on the ceiling. I've seen this before. The weirdest thing is that there's a smell. Stepfather trying to kill my pregnant mom. Ducker wasn't even arrested for it. Being pregnant isn't illegal. Swarm of wasps in the hallway. I'm so sorry. Me and my siblings were sent home early from school to learn from my mom that my dad had committed suicide. I am so sorry. Same thing happened to me. The worst day of my life. Much love. My dad came home to find a wasp in the house, and then another. He investigated, heard a buzzing coming from the dining room. An entire nest of wasps had been living in the walls and chewed through the sheetrock, or whatever it is they did, and were now pouring into the house through the hole. Edit to answer a few questions. The dining room was a formal room only used for holidays and dinner parties, and since it was summer most entertaining they did was done outside, so no buzzing heard. Also my dad was older and hearing does get less sharp. Exterminator cleared it out. My dad removed the sheetrock and replaced it and replaced all the vent covers. They typically had wasp nests hanging from the eaves all the time, so seeing wasps outside wouldn't have been noticed. They even had them in the mailbox. That is what I see in my nightmares. And your dad comes home to see it happening. Wasps suck, and I hope you've gotten an exterminator in there. An old dog of mine had become sick after getting a hold of a large batch of double fudge brownies at some point during the day, and by the time I got home, I walked into a house with no less than 25 separate puddles. Yes, puddles of shit. Poor fella had to eat bland boiled chicken and rice for a week. I came home to find my mother had died overnight with a glass of milk I'd poured out for her the night before still sitting there. So sorry. A frizzled wife surprised I was home so early, and the distinctive smell of sex and semen, and actual cum on the bed. So yay, Mondays, what you gonna do? I left home one morning and noticed a handful of fruit flies buzzing around the kitchen. Thought nothing of it. Figured I'd buy some traps later. Came home to hundreds of them, everywhere, along the walls and ceilings in every room. Literally ran down the street to a Rite Aid and bought all the bug spray and traps they had. I don't blame you man, those things are horrifying. It's like a smelly cloud, because call me crazy but there's a smell. One summer I had a swarm of them that wouldn't die or be destroyed and I seriously considered moving just to get away from them. One morning when we were leaving for work, my wife noticed that the dog had eaten half a pack of sugarless gum. At the time, we did not know that the sweetener in sugarless gum, xylitol, is dangerous for dogs. We just went to work. We were fortunate in that her health was fine. As xylitol can be deadly, she was okay. But we came home to a ghastly smell in the house. The dog was sitting in 0.5 in 1.3 centimeters deep liquid shit in her crate. She was coated head to toe in it and was excited to see us and wagging her tail, sending a spray 4 feet 120 centimeters in every direction. It took hours to clean her and the room up and days to get rid of the smell. I laughed at the mental image even as I was thinking, oh no, poor baby, and she was study learned happy to see you. I think it would be coming home after working from 8 am 11 pm in college, walking in completely exhausted from the weekend and hoping to crash before your 8 am class, only to find that there is a massive party going on in your house. Also, when you finally get to your room there are strangers in your room smoking. Oh my god, yes. My last year of college I shared a house with some friends of mine who were in a fraternity. This was not their fraternity house, mind you, but it was closer to bars than their actual frat house. Biked home from my shift waiting tables. Get home around midnight to be greeted by a huge party, and some shit on the front steps has the audacity to step forward, put out his hand, and ask who I know there. Luckily another of my fiends who was in the fraternity saw the steam coming from my ears and rushed over to explain my name was on the lease and that kid needed to move. So extremely glad I will never have to deal with that again. My girlfriend and roommate best friend hanging on the couch, obviously post-coitus. They're married now. Not necessarily something I came home to, but happened right as I came home. I had a really long day at work and when I got home, the parking spot I usually used was taken so I had to park across the street. I walked inside and crashed down on the couch, exhausted, ready to relax when I heard a smash outside. I had a sinking feeling and just thought to myself, damn it, someone just hit my parked car. I looked out the window and sure enough someone had slammed into the back of my car causing thousands of dollars of damage and then drove off. I had just gotten my car back from the shop after being hit 2 weeks before. Dog had had surgery on both paws. Husband decided after a few days that he trusted him without the cone of shame. Arrived home to find bits of white cotton scattered down the hall. Followed them to find the living room floor covered in blood and the dog in his bed with a paw swollen to twice its usual size after he'd shredded the bandages and ripped out his stitches. Worst treasure hunt ever. I go to turn on the light and nothing. The electricity is off. Go to the electricity box outside and turn it on and go back inside. House has been cleared out of all valuable things. I hear a whirring sound and realize it's the old VCR videotape rewinder rewinding the videotape I put in it in the morning as I left home with my baby son. And then it dawns on me, that tape only takes about 3 minutes to rewind. The burglars must have turned off the electricity seconds after I left home with my baby in the morning. They were watching me leave from inside the garden. That is disturbing. A screaming argument between my folks. I was hungover. I had just found my good group of buddies and we were going out on the weekends getting drunk and being young and dumb. I came home and went to bed. As I lay there drifting in and out of sleep I could hear a lot of ruckus. It wasn't unusual for them to argue or scream. But I do remember thinking my mom's voice had rarely sounded so raw, so full of pain. I thought, I'm 17. I'm hungover. I'm not going to deal with this, and went back to sleep. A few hours later I woke up. It was quiet. My dad was gone. I went into her bedroom. It was dark. The air stank of alcohol blended with vomit. That raw, ugly, acidic odor. I went up to the bed. There was a splash of vomit on the floor and a thicky chalky pile of regurgitated pills. She tried to kill herself. My dad, sitting at the foot of his bed, in tears, with a shotgun in his hand. I am so glad I got home when I did. I was out with friends and something was telling me I needed to get home ASAP. So I left early. I took the shotgun out of his hand, put the safety on, and just gave him a huge hug. On a lighter note, the first mess I came home to in my first home was my cat finding the canister of catnip and exploding it all over the living room. I mean, It was all over the place, and the cat, looking smug as a bug, was rolling around in it, high as a kite. One day I came home and all of my mother's stuff was gone. Along with my mother, she moved out without telling anyone but my dad. Pretty shitty. Not me but my cousin. She came home from Boxing Day shopping to find her dad had died of a heart attack. That's just awful bad. I'm sorry for the whole family. My dad had cancer and we were taking care of him for almost a year. I went away to my cousin's birthday party for the weekend and came back to him almost dead. I appreciate that my mom didn't want to ruin my weekend, but I never would have forgiven myself if I missed his passing. My GF and I were having a problem. I told her I needed to take a walk, but I'd be back. I kissed her on the cheek and walked out the door. I got back and she had cleaned up, packed her things, and left me. Seeing my dog waiting for me at the door, knowing that it was his last day before putting him to sleep. A filthy house after working all day. Someone ate my last Rolo. Coming home after a long day at work, PlayStation wouldn't turn on. Devastating. Bodies of my husband and son after a murder-suicide. I will never forget the silence that shouldn't have been there, and seeing their shoes still by the doorway. Meth lab bust. I was raised by my grandparents. They were wonderful people who adopted a bunch of shitty kids, and they'd let my aunt and her boyfriend move their RV onto the property because they got kicked out of wherever they were staying. The worthless a-holes were trying to cook meth in it and it caught on fire, so they ran off and left it there burning. The neighbors called 911 and the fire department got the fire out before it got to the house. It was nice coming home from school to that. It was a huge shitstorm. My grandparents were almost arrested and they almost lost their house and land. Pretty much the only thing that saved them was that the meth lab was in a vehicle registered to the boyfriend. Even though we didn't get into any legal trouble, it was still a pain in the ass because the whole house had to be tested and they had to hire someone to clean up the mess and have the property test clean before we could move back in. And my childhood home is listed as a former meth lab on the National Clandestine Laboratories Register. My grandparents never recovered financially. A robbery. It was during a summer heat wave with high heat and humidity. I came home to an apartment where several things felt off. I took a piss, removed my tie and sweat-drenched dress shirt before noticing a wide open window. I proceeded to take an inventory and called the police. Thankfully I had renter's insurance and they missed my laptop. My family was in the kitchen, where there was a completely somber tone. They were quiet for quite some time and I broke the silence with, "Who died?" They then all told me that they had found a noose in my brother's closet and were trying to figure out what to do about the situation. At that point my brother had basically barricaded himself in his own room. His therapist was called and told the family that if my brother didn't want to be admitted into the hospital, then he would have to be checked on every hour during the night. My brother said it had to be my dad, who had a shift at 5 in the morning, and couldn't be waking up every hour in the night. My dad wanted to take the hinges of the door, but my brother said it would be a huge invasion of privacy. I don't know if he ended up cracking the door, but I'm fairly certain no one checked on him. My casual boyfriend doing full demolition on my master bathroom. I had mentioned I would like to remodel it someday. When I was in about 6th grade or so, my family and I adopted a dog, Sally. We had found abandoned with her pups. We found the pups a home and decided to keep Sally. Little did we know the mom had separation anxiety. Before I left for the school bus one morning after my parents had gone to work, I was to put Sally in her kennel, but she absolutely refused to get in. Knowing I was already running late, I just gave up and left. When I came home that afternoon, it was pure destruction. The blinds had been destroyed. She had scattered all my things on my desk on the floor, including a small fish tank, and the house had a myriad of broken objects throughout. Let's just say my parents weren't too thrilled, but I managed to persuade them to keep her. To this day she was one of my absolute favorite dogs. Who would have thought? Dead bunny parts plus my cat and 2 stranger cats. Years ago we would camp 4 weeks at a time, come a few times a week to do laundry, feed the cats, etc. Our cats had a doggy kitty window and could come and go as they pleased. Came home one night to my cat having guests and serving them bunny. It was a fluffy mess. When I was in college, I went away for a weekend to come home to find that my roommate had attempted to hang a TV on the wall. Guess the first time didn't work because there was a massive hole right next to a TV on the wall. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.